Thank you for joining everybody. My name is Tom King, and I'm the founder of Toolkit.law, and we wanted to put together for our global CLE event a 30-minute session on self-improvement. And the first thing I want to point out is if you use Toolkit.law, you may be aware that Toolkit.law has a tool. So if you go to the homepage, and then you go to the tools section, and in the tools section, we have a tool called Improver. And if you go to the Improver page, we have resources for alternative dispute resolution training, alcohol issues, anger management issues, blood alcohol testing, domestic violence, life changes, narcotics issues, parenting courses, pornography issues, substance abuse issues, weight loss, all the things that can happen in life, right? So whether you're looking at Toolkit.law as a law student, as an attorney helping others, or an attorney helping yourself, we just wanted to make you aware that we have this resource there at Toolkit.law. We're going to go ahead and we're going to jump right in with our panel, and we're going to go ahead and look at the help sheet. The first thing we want to talk about is substance abuse, and we're joined by Bruce Jefferies of National Screening Center, one of America's most popular and most respected substance abuse testing centers that actually facilitates drug testing. Last I counted, Bruce, that was on 6 continents.
Correct.
Okay, so when we look at the help sheet right here, Bruce, let's just talk briefly about substance abuse, right? How do you define substance abuse, and what are the types of substances that can come up under this topic?
Well, substance abuse testing is really dealing with the addiction process of individuals that are involved in partaking of some drug or substance, including alcohol. And so we run the testing process on drug testing, and we capture any drug that may be used as drugs of abuse. There's really not a drug I can't test for, no matter if it's in the hair, urine, blood, fingernail, toenails, or any other situation.
Saliva. You forgot saliva.
Well, yeah, saliva. We just rolled it out 2 weeks ago. A lot of people don't even know what it is yet, but that is a new patented test that's come out that nobody in the world has done. And so we are rolling it out. That's where it was today, given 2 CLEs. So, yeah, it's the new test on the market that I'm the exclusive seller of it. And it will eventually replace urine testing because you can't beat the test, you can't cheat. It's oral testing.
Yep, and in fact, as you know, you're going to be our back-end partner to roll out testing globally, also on Toolkit.law, using that process. And when we talk about substance abuse, probably the most abused substance maybe in the world might be alcohol. What do you share about substance abuse, specifically alcoholism, and what it does to people's lives?
Well, the first thing that I would share is that, it happens to all kinds of people, right? Very, very successful people, regular people. Nobody ends up in Alcoholics Anonymous winning streak that they might play in the rooms. But, the thing is, alcohol can affect anyone and everyone that you might come across, right? And certainly in America, I don't think there is a family that hasn't been touched by alcohol and a friend or a family member, myself, a family member who's dealing with alcohol at some point in their life.
Absolutely. Bruce, when people hear about substance abuse testing, they think of it as punitive, right? But really, substance abuse testing can be restorative, right? It can save lives. It can save families. It can save relationships.
I mean, yeah, I've been in this industry 33 years, and I can't tell you how many people have come by my office just to thank me for saving their lives, essentially, because due to our number one laboratories that don't got false positive tests, they're all positive. The donor usually knows that. So I mentor people, families, kids, husbands and wives about their addiction. And so, I'm thrilled to, over the years, help families survive and put them back together by just mentoring with them and talking to them about their issues.
Absolutely. Okay, that's Bruce Jefferies of National Screening Centers. Bruce, I know you need to go, so I'm going to go ahead and let you go. And we're going to go ahead and let's talk about co-parenting. Okay, Martha, when we talk about co-parenting, you're the director of co-parenting into the future.com. And when we talk about self-improvement, it's, and you and I as family law attorneys, we see courses like this, we go, why didn't they require this course before they got married? Right, Ann?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. In fact, I have had clients that have taken our programs and say, you know what, it would be so great. The same way they make us go through a certification of marriage, that they will have something like this prior to getting married.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when I share my screen right now, and I'm going to go ahead and take us there, and we're going to go to, I think I'm there, co-parentingintothefuture.com. Talk about the courses that you offer and how it benefits people, Martha.
Yes, so co-parenting into the future is not your regular parenting program because of the nature. We focus on communication, and not just the communication that you may think of. It's a communication, it's a tool that gives people access to get into the source of what happened. When a couple decides to no longer continue living together and decides to go through the process of divorce, there's all kinds of situations that occur in that rupture. And co-parenting provides a way where people can communicate effectively and leaving children intact. So we have a 4-hour program and a 6-hour program. The difference between the 4 and the 6 is the last 2 hours of the 6 is information about litigation and mediation. And a lot of attorneys love us because it allows people to really just get us a lot of information of what happens in a mediation event.
Co-parentingintothefuture.com is approved in the United States in over 12 states. You're also approved in Canada, but for our Toolkit.law users watching from any of our 80 plus countries with English-based legal systems, they can apply they can help your course get certified in their country as well, can they not?
Correct. And a lot of states and courts do not require an approval. Is really what they call recognize. So we just, I don't know the rules of outside of the United States for the course system, but I've seen a lot of registrations happen from different parts of the world.
And of course, your program is an English-based program, but it's also has Spanish subtitles, correct?
Correcto.
Okay, great. Now, and one of the things I love about their course is that 6-hour course includes an hour on how to behave in the courtroom and an hour on how to behave in mediation. Would we ever need family law clients that need help on how to behave in mediation and how to behave in the courtroom, Ann?
Not just clients, we have some lawyers too. But yeah.
Oh, don't talk about Raymond that way in front of him. Come on. So Raymond, you were a prosecutor for 19 plus years. I believe one of your specialties was money laundering by the cartels, of the drug cartels, and seeing up close how the drug epidemic in America has really affected the world. When you think of when people might need to improve their lives because of drug issues, what do you wish you could tell somebody before they made those bad decisions, Raymond, based off of your 2 decades of top level law enforcement?
Well, I think that what I often found was that the drugs got them involved with more serious crimes. Of course, they started with petty thefts to support the small amount of drugs that they had, but that increased over time. To they needed it more and more, and then they would go from that to um, to become sellers. But um, I'm faith based myself. I'm a Christian, and so I always would. I guess the story I'm thinking about is um, a mother who came to me because her son, her 21-year-old son, was looking at 30 years to life. And what he had done was teaching a 12-year-old how to murder a person by a drive-by shooting and showing him how to get away with it by making sure that before he loaded the weapon that he would take make sure that his fingerprints weren't on the bullets, the casings that were going to kick out. Just all those it was somewhat sophisticated and would help him shoot the gun, which he did. And so this 21-year-old mother, the mother regarding the 20-year-old came to me asking for, for mercy. And I said, well, where were you when your son was out there in the streets teaching other young kids how to do this? You're here in the courtroom now, but you should have been in his life before. And his young daughter was there, and I said, did you ever take him to church? She just was dumbfounded. She didn't know. And I think our society is becoming so busy now that we really don't have time for that. And those are the things that keep us out of prison. And keep us away from addictions, and they help us with anger management, all those areas that you're talking about. It's not a cure-all. I mean, it's not just good to go to church. It doesn't mean it's going to it's going to help you, but that's a place that can help you more than anything. So that's the best I could say.
So for the benefit of the panel, we have about 12, 13 minutes left. Raymond, when you think about all the crime that ran through Riverside County, adjacent, I believe, to both Orange County to the south and Los Angeles County, more or less to the west. What percentage of crimes would you guess were in some way affected by alcohol or substance abuse?
Well, our particular county was broken up into drug-related offenses, sex-related offenses, domestic violence, and general felonies. So in the drug, of course, everything is drug-related. And even in and gangs, of course, you have just straight up violence and drugs. That's involved too. Domestic violence, you have issues of drugs and even sexual assault. All of those things are drug related. Drugs are involved in so many of things. These things that impact all of the crime related issues. And anger is the other issue, which is really very interesting. How anger is involved in so much of violence, whether it's domestic violence or just straight up violence or violence against parents against children. I mean, it's just physical violence is bad.
I would guess. I remember that I was speaking to a prosecutor in a jurisdiction within our state in the United States. And for those on the panel, this is Victoria County in Texas. And I said, what percentage of the residents in your county do you believe are addicted to illegal drugs? And he said, at least 35%. Addicted, including passive users, 45 to 48%. Basically, half of his county was at least a recreational user of illegal drugs. And Raymond, I'm going to guess it's as high as 80%. And governments don't want to tout that, right? But I'm going to guess, when we look at the damage, and that alcoholism does, that substance abuse does, and that anger does, those are all things, Martha, there are solutions for dealing with co-parenting better, right? And there are solutions for dealing with alcoholism, right, Ann?
Absolutely.
Starts in the family.
But there are supplemental programs. So, Ann, can you tell us just briefly your journey, which turned your life around?
I can, yes. So, I was very fortunate to have what we call a high bottom, right? Meaning I had, for me, I had a physical addiction to alcohol and I had the physical withdrawal symptoms sooner. I mean, that came first, right? I did not have I did not have, right? I did not have trouble with the state bar of Texas, but those things were coming. Instead, I had a physical addiction. And I had to get help for that. And it was very hard. But it was made easier by the fact that I was fortunate, I was blessed. I did not need to experience, being evoked or prosecuted. I mean, I had seen in cases that I've handled, what bad effects can befall you. So the first step really started with having my courage to get help, and right, admit that I needed help. And of course, there were a lot of resources that were available, very much like in the program with the other Tom, the toolkit to kind of present a toolkit, right? And a list of resources in a variety of areas for practitioners all over the world. So that first step comes with what do you need help, basically.
Let's go ahead and look at the help sheet, see if there are any topics that we missed. So as we look at the help sheet that's in your packet that you're following along with, for legal professionals, there are certainly different programs we point out. There's a Toolkit.law certified user program to help you with your resume and your curriculum vitae. There's Google Workspace certification, Microsoft 365. Udemy is a great source of online training and certification. Not only do they have digital marketing training, but they're also the one that has the pornography addiction training. On the right column, we point out Alcoholics Anonymous, which is an international program, Celebrate Recovery, which is offered through 35,000 churches worldwide for people who are just dealing with problems in general. Narcotics Anonymous at na.org. Okay. And then when we go on the second side, there are anger management classes, anger masters, courses for anger, mastering anger. It was so interesting, Raymond, how you talked about, as we look at the rest of these quickly, how I was focused on substances, but you also identified as a separate and distinct toxic influence of anger. Can you expand on that just briefly, and how much anger drives so much of many countries' societies and the crimes that result or ruin lives?
Oh, I mean, anger is so fundamental to human interactions. And you think about what takes place in disputes, in marital disputes, how it moves very quickly to anger. We treat people with disrespect. You raise your voice, the intonations, different things that you use can just set off another person, and then it just escalates from there. And there's usually power control. There's control issues and power that's taking place, and so for a woman, they can't use power. It's very rare that they use the physical force and power, so they control through other means, and it's usually through speaking, and the way they speak to the husband, and that sets a husband off, and he may not be as good at speaking as a woman, and so he uses force, and that's the one that we say you can't do that. That's crossing the line. So it goes from raising the voice, and between men, when one man raises the voice against another, we know that the next step is force. And so men don't like to yell at each other, because if that happens, we know the next step is going to be physical force.
And you know what, Raymond, whether you look at the sacred texts that are the foundation of the Christian faith, the Jewish faith, or the Muslim faith, one of those big themes is anger.
Well, you look at the thoughts from the Mount of Blessings. That's the very after Jesus goes about the thoughts from the Mount of Blessing, and he goes for the blessings, actually, blessings and the woes. He goes straight into anger, and that's so fundamental. Being angry with your brother and holding him in contempt, and from there you go. If you get angry with your brother, you could lead to murder, and that's usually they talk about the cycle of violence here in Riverside County, where you're talking about the versus just the how you speak disrespectfully, and that moves to pushing or to raising the voice, then to pushing, from pushing to a slap, and then it just keeps on going down the cycle, and then you have where they say they're sorry for what they did, then they make up, and then they get angry again. It just goes all over again, but it increases each time. That if they will see them coming in as misdemeanors, and from there it goes to actual physical force where they're actually hurting them. And then we'll say that once they start hitting them like that, it's not going to end until there's a murder. And we actually argue that, and that's what happens, and that does happen.
Martha, when I think of co-parenting into the future.com in your course, part of the things you talk about are the toxic influences, whether it's anger, alcohol, drugs, or disrespect. You talk about all those things. And just because you're no longer in a marital relationship or living together in a parenting relationship doesn't mean the problems go away, does it, Martha?
It doesn't go away. In fact, there is going to be a major amount of increase just because there's so many emotions involved now as to what it used to be a loving relationship. It now becomes, there's a lot of resentment. There's a lot of negative emotions to deal with that can easily burst in an argument. And that's why co-parenting is so critical, because in all these classes that you are putting together in Toolkit, Tom, because it allows people to train themselves in different ways so they can better themselves and learn to communicate and draw a line in what is acceptable and what is not acceptable in regard to what is going to be impacted in that communication, the child. Yes.
Okay, great. So I'd like to thank all of our participants. I'd like to thank Bruce Jefferies of National Screening Center. And you've participated in many of our events, but actually all four of you I've actually roped in all four of you on previous cycles in previous years, but this is the first international CLE, continuing legal education, that we've done. So board certified immigration attorney and family law attorney within the Texas jurisdiction of the United States. Ann Kennedy, thanks for joining us. Ann, where can they find your website? What is it?
Good. www.lawyerkennedy, all one word, lawyerkennedy.com.
lawyerkennedy.com. Okay, Martha, your website is co-parentingintothefuture.com. And Raymond, you're not looking for business, are you?
No.
And as a footnote, Raymond was my roommate from law school, and I love him to death. Okay,
Yeah, we had a good time.
I'd like to thank everybody for joining us, and that concludes this 30-minute webinar on self-improvement.